Hi, welcome to 10-Minute Violin. And it looks like I'm missing my screen here. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you with us. Just give me 1 second. We're going to try to get my screen up here. It has some of my notes. There, I think we got it now.
I don't know why you did that.
Okay, there we go. Had it the whole time except right when we were about to start. So we're so glad to have you here joining us today. My name is Miguel Ramirez, and this is the live stream training session for the 10-minute practice video titled Violin Support. I want to make sure everyone has a good understanding of our format here at 10-Minute Violin. First of all, I want to clarify that this session here is not the 10-minute practice video itself. This is the training session where we'll explain in detail how to best approach the material presented in our Violin Support 10-minute practice video. It's important to watch this training session at least once before following along with the 10-minute practice video so you can optimize your time spent with it. There will also be a question and answer time at the end of this training session for those of you who are tuning in live. And the separate 10-minute practice video will be available on our YouTube channel directly following this session. An easy way to think about it is if you view this live stream training session as your lecture or your class, and the separate 10-minute practice video as your lab or your homework. At this time, I'd like to introduce my brother and co-host of 10-Minute Violin, John Ramirez.
Hello, it's good to be back. Well, last time we had trouble with my video and my sound. So today we have a really exciting class for you. So we're going to get back to you real quick after I go to Miguel.
All right, and I'd like to invite you guys to say hi through the chat and just let me know that you're here, and you can give your name and where you're shouting out from. Okay, in this training session, we'll now be using the body positions and movements previously covered in order to support the violin in playing position. Finally, we hope this information will be valuable for you no matter what level you're at the violin, and will also be helpful for those of you who are viola students. I'd like to take a moment to say hi to those who are in the chat room. I don't know if anyone's joining us today who said hi in the chat.
We do have one person right now,
okay.
And I'll put him up here in the chat.
Okay, so hello from Calvin in Livingston, New Jersey. Hi, Calvin. Thanks again for joining us today. It's great to be here with you, and I hope everything's going well out there in Livingston. All right, and it looks like my notes had gone away again from the teleprompter.
I'm not sure what's going on. Is it showing again?
Yeah, it looks like we got it.
We might have to do this several times. I have no idea what's going on.
Okay. All right, some little technical difficulties. All right. So just to begin, I'd like to just say a brief word about the use of shoulder rests first before we start actually, applying the violin, on the shoulder. So there are many reasons why people may or may not use a shoulder rest. There are many different body structures and many different shoulder rests out there on the market. I won't go into the details of the topic of shoulder rests, but I will offer some suggestions on how to approach this week's practice video. So my suggestion is to start the exercises in this video without the use of any shoulder rest. So work toward being able to do each exercise successfully without the shoulder rest. And as you do that, you may come to realize that you don't need a shoulder rest at all. Most violinists throughout history didn't use them, so if you don't use it, you'll be in good company. That said, if after completing these exercises successfully, you feel like you could use some little extra support, I'd first try something like a small pad similar to this here, and try the exercises again with that on the instrument. So this is called a magic pad, and it's made by a company called Artino. And and I think we'll probably end up, we could put the link below for this. I'm not endorsed by this company. This is just something that I've had around, and I like it. And I know a lot of people have success with it. But there are plenty other little pads like this on the market as well. You can kind of look around. And so you can try, a few of these. The good thing about these is they're relatively inexpensive. If perhaps your neck is particularly long and this doesn't seem to be enough support, then you could perhaps then try some of the more regular shoulder rests that are available, like this one, which is made by a company called Kuhn. It's a pretty common shoulder rest. There's so many more available, but they can start to be pretty pricey, depending on which one you're getting. I would recommend going to a music store and actually trying out some. If you're going to actually go with a shoulder rest like this, trying out some there at a music store, so that way you're not out hundreds of dollars ordering shoulder rest after shoulder rest, looking just for that right fit. So that would be my recommendation, to find a local shop that has a good selection of shoulder rests and be able to try some of those before actually buying. So finally, if you do use a shoulder rest or a shoulder pad, just make sure, I'll ask, make sure that you're able to still do the exercises successfully with anything on your instrument, be it a pad or a shoulder rest. To do these exercises also successfully with those things, and that make sure that these don't hinder your ability to do these exercises that we're going to be doing today. So that's my little note on those things, and I can't really tell you what's right for you. You have to explore this on your own. Everybody has to explore this process on their own to find out what the setup is good for them. Okay, the first exercise today is called descending violin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a chair here and I'm going to go ahead and sit down for this, because I'd like you to do this standing up, but I'm going to sit down because of the camera's sake, because we're going to be lifting the violin up. You'll see in a second. So I'll recommend that you do this exercise with your shoulders going parallel to a wall in front of you. So if there's a wall like this, there's the camera here, and so like the camera will be like my wall here. The shoulders will be parallel to that wall, just like we did last time with the AO turns. Okay, that'll be a reference point for your body position. So since I'd like you to be standing, what you need to do is check your stance, balance, and weight distribution like we went over last time. So to set up for this exercise, we'll hold the violin with both hands in two specific places. First, we'll make sure to hold the violin with the left hand, with the fingers resting on top of the violin over the violin's left shoulder like this, and the thumb resting on the back of the instrument like that. You'll know if you're doing this right if the thumb ends up around the middle of the top of the back of the instrument. So it'll be kind of in line with the neck there. If you grab it on the other side accidentally, your thumb will kind of just be out in the air like this. We don't want that. We want it on this shoulder, and then the thumb will be resting on the back. Okay? So next, the right hand will hold the violin around where the end button is, and this is what holds the tailpiece here. And so the right hand will hold about the middle there. Okay, so then the fingers will be on top, and then the thumb again will be on the back like that. Okay. So holding the violin like this, we're going to extend both arms toward the ceiling, and we'll raise the instrument completely over the head. Okay, and then the last step is what I like to call floating the instrument down. So you can imagine like it's almost like a leaf floating down gently. And then that will float down to rest on the left collarbone and angled slightly up so the strings are horizontal to the floor. Okay, so I'll float that down. And so it's resting on the collarbone there. And notice that the strings are horizontal with the floor. So to make that more clear, if the violin itself is horizontal to the floor, just horizontal, I guess, the strings actually end up slanting down this way towards the scroll, and then again slanting down towards the tailpiece. So they kind of go in this like tent-like shape here. And so what'll happen is that if you're playing with your violin like this, that bow is going to want to go like down this way towards the fingerboard. So if you have it slightly angled up, now you have a horizontal plane for the strings to play on. And your bow, the sounding point won't be affected. Now even like think about that, and even be worse, like think about this, if the scroll is pointing down, then you have like even doubly slanted down the strings here. And so this is why a lot of times students may end up having trouble keeping their bow from going onto the fingerboard. That could be one aspect there. So that's the exercise. I'll go over it again. So we're going to raise the violin up over the head, and then lower it, float it down again to the left collarbone, and then the last step would be to just release this hand here and angled slightly up. Another thing I want to talk about is this. If your shoulders are still parallel with the wall in front of you, so check that. At this point, the violin should be mostly parallel with the wall, but with the scroll and the neck very slightly angled towards the wall. So it looks, if you can look on the camera, it looks like mostly just to the left, but really the scroll is a little bit towards the wall at an angle. Now, what it's not doing, it's not facing the wall, okay? So it is to the left, but and a little bit angled in towards the wall, but not this much. This is too much here. And this is definitely too much. Okay, so if it was like a 90-degree angle, not quite 90 degrees to the wall, it would be maybe, if we had an angle like this, it would be close to 90 degrees, 85 degrees, something like that. Okay. Okay, so the other thing is this. We want to make sure that the violin, it can tilt a little bit towards the wall. So we're looking at the tilt here of the instrument. So we want it to be mainly flat like this. But if we want to tilt it, it can tilt a little bit towards the wall, but we want to avoid any kind of extreme tilt like this. This again kind of almost pushes your chest down this way. So we want to keep it mostly flat, at maybe a tiny bit of a tilt towards the wall. Okay. So the next exercise we're going to be doing, it's called AO turns with the violin. So we did the AO turns last time without the violin. This is basically going to be the same thing with violin. So I'll move this chair out of the way. So please first check your stance, balance, and weight distribution. We'll begin with the violin held with both hands resting on the collarbone, just like before. Then we'll simply do the AO turns exercise we covered in the last video with the violin resting on the collarbone. Notice again that the chin or the jaw will not lower to contact the violin yet. We're simply turning the head. We're not, there's space here. We're not contacting the chin rest. Another thing that we're not doing is we're not taking the head off its balance. We're not trying to go over the violin like this. We're pretending that the violin's not even there. And that's pretty much that exercise, okay? So pretty simple so far. The next exercise I call violin bridging, okay? And we're going to make the violin itself into a bridge, so to speak. This is not a technical term. It's just something I made up to describe what the violin's doing in this exercise. Please don't confuse this with the part of the violin called the bridge. That's the wooden piece here that holds the tension of the strings. So, this would be your actual technical violin bridge here. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So what I do mean is that one end of the violin is going to rest on your collarbone, just like before. And we want to make it rest securely there. The other end of the violin, the neck, is going to rest on your thumb, making a, again, bridge, for lack of a better term. Okay? So for this exercise, please make sure that you're standing in front of a bed or a couch or some other soft surface, just in case the violin ends up losing balance and falls, okay? And always be ready to catch it too if try not to let that happen. So take your time, get it positioned on your collarbone, and then you put your thumb on the pad of the thumb underneath the neck. So first, before we start, again, check your stance, your balance, and your weight distribution. Take a second to do that. So again, we'll begin with the violin held with both hands resting on the collarbone. Then we'll release the left hand and balance the bottom of the neck on the pad of the left thumb. So I'll show you from the other camera angle. It looks like this. The only place it's touching is the bottom of the pad of the thumb, the bottom of the neck on the pad of the thumb. And also this, I'll show you from here, there's space here. So nothing else is touching. The fingers aren't touching, the knuckles aren't touching, just the pad of the thumb is touching the bottom. Notice also, go to the other camera here, that the thumb is just, it's not like the bow thumb where it's hooked. This thumb is now bending, just, it's just kind of a straight thumb like this. Sorry, I wasn't talking loud enough, I guess. So it's just a straight thumb. Or if you would say like it's maybe possibly bent in the other direction here. Okay. So definitely different than the right thumb, which we always want hooked. All right. You can place your thumb anywhere along the bottom of the neck. we won't get picky about where on the bottom of the neck that you're gonna put your thumb at this point. Okay, so anywhere is okay. The point is to get the bridge and the violin resting on both of those, the collarbone one end of the bridge and thumb on the other end of the bridge. Once you feel that your violin is resting securely on both those places, go ahead and just release the right hand from the instrument. And once again, the chin or the jaw is not contacting the instrument. My head's completely free here, and it's just resting on those 2 points. And we'll repeat this process several times on the practice video. The next exercise is shoulder positioning with the violin. It's the same as the shoulder positioning exercise from the last video, but this time we'll do the exercise with the violin. So the violin will be securely in that bridge position. And if you want, at the beginning of this exercise, you could even do this exercise with the left hand with the fingers on top and then the thumb on the back. That could work as well. But ultimately, try to do it to where you're in that bridge position. Okay, so get it securely there, and again, make sure that you're standing over that soft surface, bed, couch, whatever, just in case the violin decides to fall. We're going to be moving our shoulders a little bit, so there's maybe a little more danger of that happening here at first. So first, check again: stance, balance, and weight distribution. All those points from last time. All right, and so we'll go ahead and start the exercise. When it's secure in the bridge position, you're going to put your shoulders back, forward, back again, and then release them until no more muscles are engaged. And then we'll position the shoulders up, down, up again, and then release them to where none of those muscles are engaged anymore. We'll keep the violin again in this bridge position, and we'll do the AO turns. This time when the head turns to the left, we'll nod the head on that same AO joint. So again, check stance, balance, and weight distribution. And you can tell by now that it's really important to do those things before we start the exercise. And we'll go ahead and start this exercise. So we'll turn the head on the AO joint, right, left, and then here's a key point. We're going to nod the head down on the AO joint, leaving the head to continue balancing most of its weight on the spine and some of it where the chin and the jaw contacts the chin rest, like this. So I'll do this from the side here. So again, notice that the head is still staying balanced on the spine. So it's very important, again, be careful not to when you go to the left, try to bring your head forward like this. What happens there is if you do that, the weight of your head will no longer be balanced on the spine, and the neck muscles will have to strain to support the weight of your head. So it's really important to your health not to allow your neck muscles to chronically strain to hold up your head, especially if you're practicing multiple hours at a time. So really try to get this detail. So we're to the left and then simply down, and my head is still balanced on the spine, on that AO joint, and part of it is securing the instrument here, but definitely not the whole weight of the head. Okay, so that is this is the next point of contact. And so now you really have the instrument secure. And it doesn't need to be clamped down. We don't need to be pressing down with the head. We just need to simply nod it down. Finally, we have pronate, supinate bend with violin. So again, check your stance, balance, and weight distribution. And then we'll hold the instrument with both hands, again, resting on the collarbone. This time we'll reverse the position of the right hand. The thumb will be on the top of the instrument and the fingers on the back. This allows it to rest on your fingers like a shelf. Next, we'll release the left hand and we'll do the pronate, supinate, bend exercise. Now with the pad of the thumb contacting the bottom of the neck, ending in the bridge position. The difference now that the fingers are now in line with the strings. So pronate, supinate, bend, and we notice now that the fingers are in line. Maybe go back to the other camera again. In line with the strings. They're not out this way, but they're in line with the strings because of that supination. So again, pronate, supinate, bend, fingers in line with the strings. Now we're at that bridge position again here. Okay, so with that, of course, something has to happen when I'm demonstrating. Really with that bridge position, you should be able to mostly keep things in place. Like it really, if it does fall, that's why you want that soft surface. We don't really have that here in the studio. And that there is the danger of that happening. If you have it over something like that, it's not going to be a problem. So just make sure you do have that. And the thing is, it's an exercise in keeping everything released. And the thing is, we're not going to be playing like that. So again, when you have that nod of the head here, you have more security of the instrument. And that thumb is just doing a little bit of support. Once your fingers are on the strings, that's also more support. And then also when your bow is on the strings, that's even more support because the bow actually holds the friction of the bow on the strings actually holds the violin from going this way. So when you're actually playing, that's not really a problem. But to get to that point where you're playing and making sure that you're just supporting the violin, you're not holding the violin, these can be really helpful exercises. And again, if you want a little more security, less slipping, you can maybe do that exercise with one of these little pads here or something even smaller that just grips it. So if you have something grippy, my shirt is a little bit slippery, so things like that can tend to happen. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today. Let's go back to John and see if we have any questions.
My video is not working right now, so we do have a few people that came online. No question, but you might want to say hello to them.
Okay. So who's joining us today? You don't need to. There you go. Hi, Hermione. Good to have you joining us today. And you're from Orange County, it looks like. And that's Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. And SD, I'm assuming that's San Diego. So hi, Stephanie from San Diego. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you here with us for this training session. Okay, is that it for today?
That's it for today.
All right, and I guess there's no questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. Again, follow the links below if you'd like to book a private lesson with me or John. And if you find our content helpful, I'd like to remind you to subscribe, hit the bell to be notified every time we release a new video, and like and share it with your friends. Join us next time as we'll continue to work on the left-hand fingers. And don't forget to follow up daily with the Violin Support 10-minute practice video. And remember to press play every day. And goodbye for now.